Hi, and welcome to Something Spooky. My name is Terry Pearson, and in this video, I'm going to be ranking the Halloween movies. I rewatched all of the Halloween movies this month, October 2022, because of Halloween Ends coming out, which is of course, the end culmination of this Halloween saga we're in, at least. And so it seemed like a good time to have a comprehensive review. I've watched all of them, and honestly, it was a bigger undertaking than I expected. There are 13 films in the series at this point, and I'm going to rank them all from bottom to top, and we're just going to get right into it because there are a lot of movies to talk about. So, number 13, my least favorite Halloween movie, is Halloween 6, which is Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. And I actively disliked this movie. This is probably the only movie in the franchise that I did not enjoy watching at all, which is why it's my last place movie. And there is just almost nothing I like about it, except Paul Rudd is okay in it, and it is Donald Pleasence's last film. Kind of unfortunately, I wish Donald Pleasance had a better note to go out on, but it is good to see him and have him in another Halloween movie. That's cool. I appreciate that. But everything outside of that, I just really disliked. I mean, everything with the Curse of Thorn and the Man in Black, it was just really bad. I really did not like watching 6, which is why it's number 13 on my list. Okay, number 12, which is probably predictable for people who know this series, is Halloween Resurrection. And that is Halloween 8 in the order, and you can definitely make a case that it is the worst movie in the franchise too. It is just terrible. It is kind of known as the one that is a reality TV show Halloween movie. But I did enjoy it a little bit more than 6, which is why I ranked it above it, whereas I didn't enjoy anything in 6, really. 8 is so bad that it's one of those things you can enjoy just because it's so cheesy and ridiculous. And then number 11 is Halloween 5, which is The Revenge of Michael Myers. The Revenge of Michael Myers is a direct sequel. It follows up directly from Halloween 4, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but 5 is just basically the same movie and not as good, continuing the story directly, and so it's just kind of forgettable. Number 10 is Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch, and this is always a divisive pick one way or another. I do really like this movie. It is the one that is known as the Halloween without Michael Myers. Michael Myers isn't in it at all, and I do really like it as its own movie. But when you're ranking it as a Halloween movie, against other Halloween movies, and there's no Michael Myers, it's just not going to rank very high for me still. But I do really like it, and as its own movie, I think it's really interesting. Number 9 is Halloween H2O, and this was 20 years later. It's 20 years after the original film, so it came out in 1998, and it is the return of Jamie Lee Curtis to the franchise. She hadn't been in one since Halloween 2, and so with the H2O, they were kind of restarting the series, and it was the comeback for Jamie Lee Curtis, and I do enjoy it. It's very much a late 90s slasher. It feels like Scream or something almost, just in its production. And it's interesting to see Halloween and Michael Myers through that lens. Because of that, it's just not as good of a movie as some of the other movies in the franchise. But for what it is and for having that kind of particular spin on Halloween, I was able to enjoy it. Number 8 is Halloween 2, 2009 by Rob Zombie. There are a lot of things I don't like about Halloween 2, 2009, and Rob Zombie's vision of Halloween in general, which we'll get to. But there are some very good things in his vision as well. I think it's, rewatching it, still the most brutal entry in the series and one of the just kind of nastiest, most vicious Michaels. He's just ruthless. There are a lot of great gory kills, and he looks good in it. He's huge and just hulking and scary. All of the stuff with his mom, Rob Zombie putting Sherry Moon Zombie kind of back in the lead as his mom, like the white horse thing. He's seeing visions and Laurie's seeing visions. I don't really care for any of that at all. I do still like the movie overall because it is just a tough movie. It's just pretty brutal. It's really the splat pack gore era Halloween movie. Number 7 is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And I really like this movie. It's not great. It reminds me of a Friday the 13th movie in that it's just a very kind of generic feeling slasher. It's just pretty standard and everything you would expect. But it's kind of like that for Halloween. Like if you just want the kind of mindless slasher sequel that's just, is what it is, Halloween 4 is that for this franchise. Number 6 is Halloween Kills. And I'm going to cheat a little bit and tie these picks in together because my number 6 is Halloween Kills and my number 5 is Halloween Ends. And I think it's a lot easier to talk about these movies together because I do think they really complement each other. Because for me, when I first saw Halloween Kills, my number 6 pick, I was a little disappointed in it. I thought it was very standard. It just kind of felt generic, kind of like Halloween 4, like we were talking about. I didn't dislike it because it was like, okay, well, I'll take a movie with Michael Myers just, killing people on Halloween, and like, that's cool, I'll take it. But I really liked Halloween 2018, which we'll be talking about. I thought that did some interesting things with the franchise and kept its spirit. And Kills just kind of like continued it. Now, my number 5 pick, Halloween Ends, seems to be the new controversial entry for Halloween. I know a lot of people really don't like this movie and there's a lot of heat on it. It subverts expectations and it's kind of something different while it still does have Michael Myers. And it is still a Halloween movie that gives you Halloween moments. It definitely throws some curveballs and is meant to kind of keep you off guard, which, bringing it back to me, is like a good conjunction with Kills, the prior movie. I actually like them both, together more than I would individually, maybe, because having this weird, curveball Halloween movie in Halloween Ends was easier for me to adjust to right away after having seen Kills and been given this serving of kind of standard Halloween movie stuff. I was ready for it to do something different and be interesting, and it was. And in the same way, it made me look back on Kills and appreciate it more, because I was like, I'm glad that I got that just straight up Halloween movie one more time with Michael Myers on the rampage before we got this weirdo entry. But I really like them both, and I like the whole trilogy. So Kills is my number 6, and Ends is my number 5. My number 4 is Halloween 2007. I think this movie holds up really well, and I've really come to question Rob Zombie as a filmmaker in some ways. But Halloween 2007 is a good movie, and it is a good Halloween movie. There are things I don't care for in the way it interprets the story. Like a lot of people, I don't like the extensive backstory of Michael Myers. I don't like the little kid serial killer angle as much as he does it. I think that there are interesting things there, and sometimes it's scary to know who Michael is behind the mask. And I think he does a good job of dividing that line where you learn a lot about him in the beginning of the movie when he's a kid. But once he's Michael Myers, you kind of stop, and he just is Michael Myers in a mask. Number 3 is Halloween 2018. It's also just, called Halloween, but this was the comeback with Jamie Lee Curtis. Just kind of gave me everything I could want from a requel, which Scream popularized the term, where you remake a movie basically for a new generation, but you tie back into the original lore. And I think Halloween 2018 is basically the best you could have possibly done that with this franchise. It severs everything off, except for the original movie, and picks it up from there. And it's just, one of those things that kind of reminds me of Star Wars The Force Awakens, where it is very similar in a lot of ways. Like if you just look at them on paper, there's not that much different happening between those movies. But it's updated and it's interesting, an extension somehow to that original movie. Number 2 is Halloween 2 from 1981. This is the John Carpenter sequel. I don't feel like it's held as in high of regard as it should be. While it doesn't measure up to the first Halloween movie, I do think it is the next best thing, because it is still John Carpenter directing Halloween, and it feels like it and it looks like it. The John Carpenter vision really comes through, and it's just some of the best shots of Michael that you get in the whole franchise. I think for what you want out of a Halloween movie of, Michael Myers chasing Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis around with, a John Carpenter look and a John Carpenter soundtrack, it's, everything you can get except for the original movie, which is of course my number 1. And it's hard to talk too much about Halloween 1978 in a concise form, because what else can you say about it? It's one of the most important horror movies of all time. It started the slasher movie, genre as far as I'm concerned. There are some predecessors to it you can name, like Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and even going back to Hitchcock's Psycho. But I think John Carpenter's Halloween 1978 really started and ignited the fire of slasher movie sequels as we know them. And all of those franchises, Nightmare on Elm Street and Chucky and Friday the 13th, I don't think any of that happens to the extent that it happens without John Carpenter's Halloween. And it's the best movie of all of those still. In my opinion, John Carpenter's Halloween is the best slasher movie that's ever been made, really. And it's definitely better than everything that followed it. And even though I love all of those movies, there is something to Halloween that just feels eternal. And it's just a beautiful film. And the soundtrack is just so iconic. And it's just one of those movies, I watch it every year. I think most people do. It seems to be in theaters every year. It's just a tradition that is synonymous with Halloween now. And it's earned that place. It's truly one of the best horror movies ever made. And of course, it is the best Halloween movie ever made. So that's it. That's my ranking of Halloween movies, all 13 of them. I hope you enjoyed. Now that I have said it, it is definitive. So, you can't argue with it. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. That's the ranking. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out Something Spooky for more horror content. Thanks.